Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Beyond Seven Figures podcast. So, today's episode is going to be a fun one. The gentleman that I'm about to introduce you to today is working in one of the hardest industries in the world. In fact, some may argue it is actually the most difficult industry in the world. And on top of that, not only has he made a great name for himself, he's worked with such sensations as P90X. Look, if you've done any fitness training whatsoever, you've been familiar with P90X, Beachbody, that whole deal. He became the chief production officer of a company called Daily Burn, launched the first fitness streaming service of its kind, built an entire streaming library. I really want to introduce you to Mason Bendewald. He's a wealth of information. We're going to learn a few things, all of us together, about the world of not only how to crack into the fitness industry, or a very competitive industry for that matter. I also want to talk about his unique abilities of what it means as a CEO to be behind camera and how to establish a real dominant presence using the camera to your advantage. So Mason, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Charles. Happy to be here, man.
So, dude, let's get started with a big one here. There's so many easier industries than the fitness industry. What got you into the industry, and how did you cut through all the noise to become the force that you are today?
To answer that question, we are going to go back in time. And I'm in my 50s. I grew up in New York City, and I was really fortunate. I went to the High School of Performing Arts. I was an actor, a dancer, and a performer, really. And I just knew that's where I wanted my life to go, where I wanted to make my mark in the world. Quickly realized that it was going to be hard to make a mark without any money. And that's kind of what happens in the theater world. You're doing it because you love doing it. It's very hard to make a living there. And so I transitioned to production. And I realized I also had this skill set for organizing, producing, directing, seeing the big picture. Fast forward, started my company. I've graduated film school, and I'm in Philadelphia, and it's not going so well. It's a small market. I didn't really understand. It's like, you really have to be in New York or LA. Finally figured that out. And at the same time, I got this opportunity, which was to direct a fitness video. I'd done an infomercial for Beachbody, and Carl and I, the CEO, hit it off. But in the back of my head, I was like, man, this is not what I want to do. I really want to be making films, telling stories. And, there's that moment in everybody's life where you're making these critical decisions, and it's right place, right time. It's all clicking. And that was P90X. It was a very interesting time in the fitness world, in that there had been these established brands like Jane Fonda, Billy Blanks was out, but it was all, for the most part, how I looked at it. And like I said, I loved telling stories. I was an entertainer. And the thing that Carl had said was, this is going to be completely different. It's going to be extreme home fitness. I could care less about the extreme part. I heard the word different. And so I took that as an opportunity to say, great, I'm not going to do what anybody else has done. I'm going to break all those rules. And I helped the lead take all of his skill sets, and then I created characters to work behind him. And in essence, what we did is we created an entertainment fitness product that people did for years and years and years. I didn't know that at the time, but I look back. So my contribution was in disrupting this idea that fitness is about just telling you how many sit-ups to do in combination with how many jumping jacks in combination. I made it into entertainment. Looking back, that's what the secret was. And today, everything's gone into micro production, connected fitness. Think of iFit, Nordic Track, Peloton. They have a screen in a piece of equipment. And so they need to have content and subscription base. And what they've done, if we back up just pre-pandemic, the bet was, okay, we need to have a huge library. So we need to do it as fast and as cheap as possible. And when it went into micro production, it also cut out what I was on the forefront of doing, which is creating experiences, creating entertainment for fitness. Because if you're entertained, you show back up. And if you show back up, lo and behold, Charles, you get results. It's a really simple formula. Today, still, I am marveled at how many startups will dump their first round, their second round, their third round of fundraising, all into technology. And they put so little into the entertainer, the star in front of the lens, who needs training. You can't go from group fitness, hey, that guy's got a line out the door, let's just put him in front of a camera, because you're stripping away the music, you're stripping away the audience, you're stripping away everything that they've worked on for years to create that base of people. And you're just sticking them in front of a camera and going, oh, okay, now be a star. There's a process, there's techniques, there's all these things that you need to learn on how to present on camera. And it translates to CEOs, it translates to anybody who's conducting any kind of class, even podcasting, even interviews.
This is great. And it's true. See, we know that consumption drives conversion, right? So the more that people are going to consume the content, the more engaged that they have with the content itself, the more they're going to continue to buy and so forth. Now, in the fitness industry, the world was riddled with people buying tapes for the sake of just how many push-ups am I going to do, how many jumping jacks, and the whole deal. You know, you bring this into the B2B world or other industries in the B2C world, people think, oh, people are watching the video because all they want is the result. But it's actually more than that. To your point, they want to be entertained. If you can do two things, if you can entertain and educate at the same point, that's where you're going to get a double victory. Now, there is one person that stands out from back in the day, though, that was an entertainer and did really, really well for himself because he was very, very different. You know who I'm thinking about?
My guess is, because I talk about him all the time, Richard Simmons.
That's exactly who I'm thinking about.
When I'm working with trainers, I just came back from working with Techno Gym. I was in Dubai working with trainers. I bring up Richard Simmons, and I never got the opportunity to work with him. He's retired at this point. And I say, how many people know who Richard Simmons is? And again, we're talking about a full generation away from him. And almost everybody says, oh yeah, no, I've heard, I've seen. And I said, and then how many people have done a Richard Simmons workout? I've never done one. Have you done one?
No. Even if I did, I'm not sure I would admit it to you, but no, I authentically have not done one.
Well, there's the opposite. Is like, everybody's like, I've heard of P90X and bought it. And so many people never actually worked out.
I did
but
do
Richard
that.
Simmons was a force of nature. His personality, he was unabashedly passionate in a way that some people might say today is like, oh, that's way over the top. But I mean, he'd like literally sob at times talking about somebody's story, telling their story and helping how they can be a better person and they're not the sum part of their weight at the time. He had crazy big afro. He wore short shorts. He wore way past their time, wore like leg warmer type socks. And he was just full of life, this guy. He would dance. He never had a problem being silly or making fun of himself. And that is such a huge part that I teach, that I work with trainers, saying you need to be yourself.
Yeah.
And not like every other trainer, because the first thing most trainers do when they're transitioning is they go, oh, let me find out who's popular. And then they mimic them. That is the easiest way to get lost, is to be like somebody else.
I'll tell you something interesting. I predominantly work with 7, 8, and a few 9-figure CEOs. And so I thought when I was starting this company, and up until just a few years ago, that for me to present myself, you know, I needed to look like a professional coach and consultant. You know, I had my buttoned up shirt, the whole deal. I looked professional, and so be it. And it actually worked for me to some level. And then all of a sudden I got these branded t-shirts. And it was just more comfortable. So I just started wearing these branded t-shirts. And at that point, then, you know, people could see my tattoo. And I looked so different than what people expected when they were jumping on the phone with a guy who works with this type of caliber people. And then all of a sudden the feedback that I got was, you need to change your press photos. You need to change your website photos. You need to change all that. I go, just curious, why would you say that? They go, because you're so much cooler on camera now than you are in all these other photos. You look like everybody else.
And you know what I would say? I thought you were going to use this word, because it is this is what's resonating with people, is you're authentic. Yes. So as soon as you put on a suit and a tie, which, you know, had its time, that's not the real Charles. The real Charles has got these cool tattoos that have a story. So I'm going to ask you right now, what's the story of that tattoo that we can see on your right arm?
So, believe it or not, so I'm at the age where you start learning of friends and family members who get sick and some pass and the whole deal. And I made a decision at one point that when I die, my victory is going to be if I have nothing on my should list, nothing that I say I wish I should have done. And talking with my wife, we were just discussing something, and I go, "Oh, I should get a tattoo." And as soon as I heard myself say that, I was like, you know what? I'm making an appointment. And so I booked an appointment to get a tattoo. I had no idea what I wanted. I went into the tattoo studio and I said, look, I don't know what I want. I'm not enamored by any sort of imagery or anything else of that matter. So why don't we just throw some artwork and use geometrics, artwork, and whatnot, and let's have fun with it. And so he drew it out in pen first, and I liked it. And we actually took it up my arm, up over my shoulder, and about half my back.
So, Charles, the part that I love about that, and I told you I was going to put you on the spot, and I just did. This was that moment I was looking for, which is you just shared something very intimate about who you are. You and I don't know each other very well. We know about each other's profession and how we got connected for this podcast. And I mean this, and I'm sure this is true. I'd love to hear some of your listeners chime in, is that I feel so much more connected to you now. I think that's a valuable story. I love that I can see part of your tattoo. I love that you can share that easily and it resonates and clicks with me. So that is part of what I do with professionals, whether it's a trainer or a CEO, is connect them to stories that resonate with everybody else so that they're comfortable on camera and they don't go, oh my God, I don't know what I'm supposed to say. How do I keep people entertained? I'm just going to read this script. No, it's sharing. It's being more of yourself. It's being a bit vulnerable, because vulnerability really translates to the audience as courage. And it's hard to do. But as soon as you see somebody courageous, man, that is the most fundamental building block for trust you can make.
I appreciate you saying that. What stands out for me, if we look at one of the competitive advantages that are going to exist for all people, and particularly as we talk to executives and CEOs and whatnot in the future, is it really is going to be that authenticity. The CEO needs to figure out a way, how do I show my authentic self? And I really think that authenticity is ultimately going to become a massive, massive competitive advantage because no robot
100%.
can do that.
100%. I even work in virtual reality, and I just got off a call the other day with the head trainer for Supernatural, which is a really big VR company led by Chris Milk, bought by Meta. It's a virtual reality fitness app, in short. Mm-hmm. It's got music, but it's also got a live trainer. And so I'm talking to the head of production over there. Again, I've worked with them in the past when they first started. And now again, with this very question is how do we keep, and I believe in this so much, I can't tell you, is that I say to every company, every startup that hires me for a couple days, I say, you have nothing unless you have the human connection. Tonal's fantastic, the technology, but now it's just a tool. Peloton is just a bike. If you didn't have the trainers, and Peloton does a really good job of this, really investing in the trainers, Apple Plus really invests in their trainers. Of course, they've got the money, but they understood something fundamentally at the beginning, which is it's just a tool. It's just a piece of equipment. And without the trainer there, motivating, inspiring, connecting you to community, it's destined for the garage with towels over it. So the same is true for CEOs trying to connect to their shareholders or their managers, is that you have to connect authentically. Long gone is the days of just standing up and talking about bottom lines and the future. You have to show that you're willing to lead with your heart in many ways. Even though the CEO's job is profit, you have to show that there's heart. Two huge differences, I would say, without knowing a ton about them, but would be Richard Branson, who you could be cousins with the.
And you ready for this one?
Yeah.
I named my son after him. My son's name is Branson.
There you go. Wow, that's pretty cool. I don't do a ton of reading, but I've read his books because I love how he leads as a CEO, which is, I would say, with his
Very
heart,
authentic.
very authentic. It's a great documentary on him right now. And then I would say the extreme opposite at the moment for Elon Musk, how he messaged to the Twitter sphere, that I think might be authentic, but boy, you're not trying to connect. There was no connection there. And I think that was the most alarming thing for everybody. It's kind of going, oh, this guy has got a humongous disconnect between what it means to work for a company versus run a company. That message, you're calling it authentic, which I guess it is.
It is.
But what a way to alienate versus his messaging could have been. We are at a crossroads in our social media. Let me explain what I mean by complete freedom of speech. Let me break this down and let me tell you why I need help from you to really move the needle from here to here. He didn't do that. He said, you're going to have to work hardcore or get out. Like, that is not great leadership. Yeah. But one thing he did, I think it was earlier this year, if not last year, hosted Saturday Night Live. And one of the things he said was in his opening monologue, he talked about having, I think it's Asperger's. And he said that and shared that. I had never heard it. I was like, how cool, brave, and that's showing incredible leadership to be, if not the smartest guy in the room. I'm going to space. I've got a boring company. I figured out how to work on global warming by getting the best electric car on the planet out there. I mean, the guy's brilliant, obviously. So to be able to stand up and not have an ego and be able to say, hey, look, this is something that I suffer with and have worked with my whole life. That is not something CEOs are used to doing. And I say that shows incredible leadership, because that made me go, man, I respect you that much more, that you're willing to show us that you are more than human. You're imperfect in many ways. Yeah. And yet you've still overcome and you've figured out how to do all this stuff. That's true leadership.
The other thing we haven't really talked about, but I think is so true, is emotional connection. For most people, their lives aren't perfect. We've all had our challenges and our struggles. We all go into dark places. But when you hear of somebody that went so dark and pulled through, there's that little piece of you that says, I can relate a little bit to what you're going through. And it makes me feel so much better that you pulled through, because God forbid that ever happens, I can pull through too.
There you go. Charles, you're selling my program. It's so true. It's that little bits of connection that make us all go, right, I am connected. That person is not, you were talking about AI and Instagram and all that. I just watched a documentary last night called Fake Famous, and they took 3 people. My wife and I watched this, and we were just like, it was fascinating to see how the construct of making somebody an influencer. Yeah. And it's all fake. Really, it's unbelievable. Like, I didn't realize this. We kind of think we know some of it, but like really watching it being the process in hiring fake bots and fake photo sessions and all this to pretend like you're living this lifestyle. And in the end, all 3 people, I'll just give you a quick synopsis of this. The 3 people they picked came to an audition, and the audition was, do you want to be famous? And then they put this team together behind these 3 actors in Los Angeles in promoting them into becoming famous influencers. And I'm going to, spoiler alert, I would still say it's worth watching, but in their own way, all 3 of them felt so uncomfortable. Now, some people don't, obviously, but these 3 individuals said, sign me up. I want to be famous. I don't understand why. I couldn't really define it all, but I want to be famous. 2 of them dropped out early. The inauthentic side of it made them so uncomfortable that they just like, this is not right. And then the 3rd one, who did pretty well at the end, the pandemic hit, the end of this documentary, and she watched all the truly famous people online who had something to give as opposed to faking it, how they were contributing to society with their talents. And she had a really heartfelt soliloquy, if you will, talking about how that really means something and what she's doing doesn't mean squat. And every CEO, anybody who's an entrepreneur, anybody who's worked hard to get to where they're at, has stories that they can share that lift people up,
Yep.
that get you to buy in and go, okay, Charles and his tattoo, that resonates with me. I could trust this guy to take me to the next level.
I do want to talk to you a little bit about the community aspect in digital world because look, community is so valuable and so important, but it's becoming increasingly more difficult to form that connection.
It is. And today, by necessity, however we've gotten here, the pandemic, technology, and so on, we are living in a digital age. Video is not something that we can just go, oh, it'd be nice to have. You have to have it.
Yep.
If you're a CEO, you're recording things for your shareholders, your managers. We live in a global world. You can't be in all places at once. We're on video. Video is a necessity, and because it has got such a reach. There's not enough training in how to be a great on-camera presenter. Let's just say that. There are tips, techniques, and tools and skills that you learn so that you can be a better connector, a better facilitator online, on camera, and recording. Because to your point, community is very important in all aspects of our life. Storytelling is a big piece of it. Eye contact, smiling, your presence, all of that equals great leadership. So it's a host of things that make community that you can still do digitally. The toughest one that I work on with trainers is, again, go back to this idea of being in group fitness. You've got an audience, you've got music, and now you're showing up and you're talking to a piece of glass with lights and people standing around you. And they say, that was good, but can we get more? Which is the worst direction in the world. But they rarely have a director on set that understands how to communicate and connect with the person presenting. And that's what I work on, is how can you do that? And you do it, a lot of it's through storytelling. A whole bunch of it has to do with your eye contact. I'll give you this one big tip for anybody who ever presents to camera where it's not a two-way conversation. It's not a Zoom conference, if you will. It's I'm presenting, I'm recording, is you talk to one person. You might have 1,000 people that are supposed to watch this, or 1,000,000. But if you talk to one person, you start to build community. If you try and talk to everybody, nobody feels seen. What's up, everybody? All right, today we're going to talk about, well, if you call me everybody and I'm sitting at home alone, guess what? I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm in the crowd. Nobody sees me. If you show up and say, I'm here to talk today about something really important, and I know you've been working really hard, and it's my duty to share with you the vision for our fiscal year in 2023. That connection is drawing me in closer because you're talking to me, that one person, and I feel seen. It's that simple.
This is the Beyond Seven Figures podcast. And so our listeners would love to know, what is the best tip you have for taking companies beyond seven figures?
Gosh, if I have to do it in one tip, I would go back to the top of our conversation. It's being authentic in your purpose and in your leadership. So it's, as a CEO myself, and this took a long time to learn and do properly, is owning all the mistakes and giving out credit when other people work for you that help you get to that next level. And I've heard other CEOs say that. It took me a long time to adopt that, as opposed to going like, you didn't get that done right. No, I'm the one who hired, I'm the one who trained, I'm the one who has the vision. Whatever it is that goes wrong, stand up and take, I think Branson's very good at that. Stand up and take the credit for the failure. Like, it's your failure. It lies squarely on your shoulders. It's not somebody else's fault. And I've been through 1,000,000 of them, and any entrepreneur has, big ones. Own those, because it's the ashes of those failures that we build upon. And then you got to look at your team, and you got to give out lots of credit and accolades, because those team members then work harder for you. That is the fastest way to excel, and just keep on learning and just keep on growing.
So now, Mason, if people want to learn more about you,
yes,
and the work that you do,
yes,
where do we send them?
You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Mason Bendewald. And you can also just go to my website, which is megamace.com. I've got a free 3-day masterclass if the idea of being better on camera resonates with you. And you can certainly reach out to me just personally. And if there's anything I can do to help, I would love to.
Awesome. Mason, I have thoroughly enjoyed today's podcast. So thank you very much for being a guest. We learned so much today, really, about the power of authenticity, the power of being vulnerable, how that works to just not only connect with the audience, but create a community around it. We could keep going and going and going.
Thank you so much for having me on, Charles. I feel like we're going to have a connection moving forward here. So let's keep it going.
Yeah, for sure. I really want people to pay attention because you're going to see this podcast is going to have legs because authenticity is a competitive advantage, not only today, but in the world of AI and so much more going on that's allowing people to put more masks on and prevent their authentic self from showing up. That you're going to find that the authenticity, when you're willing to show it, is going to be pretty massive. So again, Mason, thank you very much for being here, a guest on the Beyond Seven Figures podcast. Make sure you connect with him over at megamace.com and then look up Mason Bendewald over on LinkedIn. So that wraps up today's episode of the Beyond Seven Figures podcast. For more tips, tricks, and information on scaling your business beyond seven figures, check us out over at predictableprofits.com. Again, that's predictableprofits.com. This is Charles Gaudette with my new friend, Mason Bendewald, and I will see you in another episode.